So now that you have a good understanding of how we plan a project and build a flowchart using user stories, it's time to start working on the project itself. So let's now learn how to use the Geolocation API. And the Geolocation API is called an API because it is in fact a browser API, just like, for example, internationalization or timers or really anything that the browser gives us. And so geolocation is just another API like that, but it's also a very modern one. And actually, there are many other modern APIs like that, for example, to access the user's camera or even to make a user's phone vibrate. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do. But in this project, let's simply focus on geolocation. And geolocation is actually very, very easy to use. All you have to do is navigator.geolocation. So VS Code is already showing it to me. And then get current position. And now this function here takes as an input two callback functions. And the first one is the callback function that will be called on success. So whenever the browser successfully got the coordinates of the current position of the user. And the second callback is the error callback, which is the one that is going to be called when there happened an error while getting the coordinates. So let's simply define two functions here. So this is the success one and this is the error one. And let's actually simply start with this one. And here we will simply do an alert. So like this, could not get your position. And now about the success callback. And this callback function here is actually called with a parameter, which we call the position parameter. So we can define that here. And as always, we can give it any name that we want. It is simply JavaScript who will call this function here in case of success, and it will pass in an argument, and we can then use that here. And so for now, let's simply log it to the console. And that's actually it already. Now, just to make sure that we don't get any errors in an old browser, we can test if this navigator.geolocation actually exists. So let's just say if navigation or navigator.geolocation. So if that exists, well, then basically do all of this. So let's check it. And actually, I already have the page running, but it's here on this other side because it takes up too much space. But anyway, here you already see that pop-up window from the browser asking for permission to use your location. And so let's actually start by clicking on block just to see what happens then. And so as you see, this is a situation in which there is an error getting the coordinates. And so therefore, we then get this alert that we specified down here, right? But anyway, let's go back. And we can then click here on this icon on this right side and then clear these settings. So I have blocked tracking the location, but now I want to actually make it work when I reload. And so I need to clear that setting so that now it's going to ask me again. This time I allow. And now let's take a look at the console. And so here indeed, we get this position object. All right. And the thing that we are interested in is already here. So that's these coordinates with this latitude and this longitude. Let's see what else we have in there. So we also have altitude, we have speed, but these are probably only available like on mobile phones, because I guess that like most computers don't have a way of knowing the altitude. But anyway, let's now get this latitude and the longitude from this object. So remember, they're called latitude and longitude, and they are inside of this chords object. So this is a child object of this bigger object. And so let's now take the positions out of the object. So actually the coordinates out of the object. And so let's simply do const latitude equals position dot coords. And now we could write dot latitude like this, but even better, we can simply use destructuring. And so this will then create a variable called latitude based out of the latitude property of this object. And now the same for the longitude. So just to see if this worked, let's just reload here again. And so indeed, here are the coordinates of my current location. They are certainly not 100% accurate, but we should be able to work with them. Now, what I want to do with these coordinates will be, of course, to load a map and then center that map on this position. And so in the next lecture, we're actually going to do that. But for now, let's simply very quickly create a link on Google Maps. Okay, so let me quickly open up Google Maps here. And so the way the URLs work on Google Maps is that we have this URL, and then here we have the latitude and here the longitude. And so it's very simple to build a URL like this. Let's just copy this very quick. Then here creating a template literal. This part here is not important. And so this here is going to be the latitude. And then here the longitude. Give it a save. And now here is that link. And I think I need to make it a bit bigger here actually for you. And now we can right click here and then open a new tab. And indeed, here is Google Maps on my current location. All right. And no matter where I go, well, actually it changes the URL, so never mind. But yeah, you should try to do that on your own, of course. And then it will take you to your current location where you are right now. So of course, your numbers here are going to look different than mine. But if you create a link like this, then that will take you to your current position on the map. And I think that's really cool already. So this was, of course, just to see how geolocation actually works in JavaScript. And now in the next video, we will use a third-party script to basically load a map and display it here on the right side of our user interface. So on this part here, we want a map, just like in our demo. And so that's going to be the task in the next video.